Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ubuntu on Air. Welcome back, maybe, or welcome for the first time. My name is Rhys Davis. I'm a developer advocate for Ubuntu at Canonical, and this is Monica.
Yep, and I'm the Ubuntu community representative and the other half of the Ubuntu community team here with Rhys.
Woo! Welcome everybody to the channel, to the stream. This is Ubuntu on Air, the community YouTube channel where we talk about community things. We have community guests, and maybe sometimes we play some games. You'll see out there at the moment that we're looking for new people to do things on the channel and really make this a community channel. We'll talk about that a little bit in a second. But before we get into that, we'll do some community news first, right? That's what we normally do.
Yep.
Do you have anything to share, Monica?
Well, let's see. I'm doing some cross-project community collaboration this weekend. I will be a guest at Nest with Fedora this Saturday, which has started today, and I can send the link to that. Registration is free because evidently Fedora was invited to the recent OpenSUSE community conference, and so they were like, we'd like to, start doing this, and so they asked me if I would like to join. So that is going to be happening 8:30 to 9:30 Pacific Daylight Time, that's 9 hours behind UTC, and so you can figure that. I'll try to figure that out. Math is hard, but I think it's going to be this great panel with a bunch of people from Fedora, both kind of our Red Hat equivalents and their community members and me, and it should be a great chat. So if you are free this weekend and want to drop in, you should register and come for free. It should be fun.
Should be fun. I'm sure it will be fun. That sounds like a great time. Another one thing that's been going on recently, as I alluded to just now, is we wrote a little blog post about Ubuntu on Air so far and how things have been going, and a little bit of summary of how things are going. And then what we wanted to do is invite anyone and everyone to start streaming on the YouTube channel and start making videos and doing things here. We put a little. I'll find a link for it in a sec once we get started. We put a little discourse post up to call for people to, if you have any ideas for things you'd like to do on the channel, to put your name down, put your hand up, and we'll support you in whatever way we can. There's more information about that on Discourse. I'm not doing a great job of explaining it now, but it should be pretty exciting. We've also the conversation around documentation has continued to go on, and there's a new thread called Ways to Improve Documentation, where it looks like the director of documentation at Canonical has sort of weighed in and said some things as well. So that's always a good read. What else have we got, Monica?
Let's see. Oh, it's August now. So you have, today is August 5th, 15 days to get in your submissions to the wallpaper contest.
Woo!
I know. So
I mean, you can scroll through the whole thread, right, and see how really great these submissions have been. I'm really excited to see what gets voted for and what gets into the image. It's gonna be good fun.
Yeah, and then so that is, and I think you brought up all the conversations that are happening on Discourse. And about this time next week, we're going to have a new Debian, which is pretty exciting. So if if any of you are hooked into the Debian community, make sure to support them this week, because the week before releases sucks. It's stressful, and definitely help them celebrate, and that is due out on the 14th. So somebody, I think, put something on the Discourse that it's like, go to a release party, bake a cake, and I'm like, all right, bake a cake. I don't usually need excuses to do that, but I'll bake a Debian cake. So
I mean, yeah, everyone likes cake, right? That's what we're all really here for. We all join communities so that eventually we get a community themed cake.
We get a cake. I mean, that's kind of why I applied for this position, honestly.
Yeah, you wanted the cake? Yeah, absolutely. I saw a quick question from the Twitch chat. Well, I'll get links to all those Discourse things in a moment after after I do a quick tweet to tell people on Twitter about this, and after Monica introduces what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so we've got, Rhys and I have been flying solo the past few weeks, but we've got a community guest this week, and we are really excited about this one. He is a man who wears a lot of hats in our community. If you are from the Ubuntu community, you definitely know him. If you've interacted with our recent community council, you also know him. And for our friends from the Ubuntu Hideout, he is also one of the top people there. And so we wanted to, but this time we wanted to wear his community developer hat. So talking about the Motus, the core devs, the developer membership board, and that whole process. So we'd like to introduce to our office hours, Thomas Ward.
Hey,
Hi, Tom.
everybody.
Hey, Thomas.
How are you?
Firstly, the cake is a lie.
It's a delicious lie, though. That's
True.
okay.
I'm doing well today. Could be better, but that's normal.
Yeah, I noticed you've got your arm in a sling.
In a sling. Yeah, I dislocated my shoulder this morning. It was not fun. But
oh my gosh! Well, thank you for still coming on with us.
a dislocated shoulder won't stop me from showing up here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Doesn't affect your talking, so we're all good.
No, it doesn't affect my talking. It might twinge a little bit, but so you might see me adjust a little bit or wince a little bit. But other than that, I'm fine. We're here.
Well, it's good. We'll know it's your shoulder and maybe not the conversation. Maybe.
It's unlikely to be the conversation.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, anyway, thank you. And so for people who are listening either live or on the recording of the stream, can you just give us I would say short introduction about yourself, but a shortish, kind of who you are, how you got started, all those good things.
I see I got a couple people saying hi to me already with my IRC name. That's always nice to see. To start with, my name is Thomas. I've been an Ubuntu enthusiast, we'll call it, since 2009. I got my membership in 2012, I think it was. I have to double check my dates. By primarily doing support through Ask Ubuntu. A lot of efforts that I put into that got me my membership. And from there, I kind of went a little bit around different things. And then I started delving really deep into the tech world of Ubuntu, thanks to primarily the server team and the Nginx web server. From there, I continued to do what I called drive-by fixes, patches for different low-hanging fruit, SRUs that needed to be done, a couple other packages. After a while, I got suggested, you know what, you should probably apply for core dev because you're touching a lot of packages, not just these little ones or just Motu, but also in main and other stuff. So I took that advice. That was advice given to me by Robbie of the server team, and I got my core dev primarily with Robbie's support. And from there, later, it came time to restaff the DMB. I joined there, and later the community council. But that's its own chaos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what you haven't done, besides, work at Canonical.
Yeah, that's pretty much that. There is actually a Launchpad group called Not Canonical. I'm in it. People probably assume I work for Canonical, but no, I just support everything from the community side of things, the sidelines.
Yeah, so you mentioned kind of in your journey that you got started as a Motu and doing the universe packages there.
Well, I actually started as a per package uploader, just Nginx initially.
Okay.
And then I skipped Motu and went straight to core dev.
You overachiever, you.
I know, I'm an overachiever. But a lot of the stuff I started doing was helping people get started with sponsoring patches and other stuff at the time. And I just started touching a lot more than just universe. So that's why I went straight for the core dev route. But that includes Motu and their power. So. Normally, people go Motu and then core dev, or just core dev, depending on their role, what their role is. You see that a
But
lot
core
with all
devs,
the canonical paid developers.
right? But core devs have all of the Motu powers.
Correct.
They're masters of the universe as well, right?
Yeah. Motu is a subset of the core dev rules. And I see Ian's asking me what my day job is. My day job is network security administration. I'm a network security admin for a small business that's also listed as a nonprofit here in Pennsylvania.
Cool.
Nice.
Now, did these skills that you got contributing to Ubuntu help you get that job?
Absolutely, because I didn't start with this job initially. They hired me as a technician, an IT technician, master of all trades, jack of all trades, master of none, as they would say. But one of the things that really started when I was starting at this company was that they were building a lot of Linux servers for certain applications, but they didn't have a Linux administrator. So that was really one of the things they liked about me. I had all the Linux experience by the time I applied in 2014, and as a part-timer, and then they hired me full-time a few years ago, straight out of college too.
Wow, that I was saying, because you look just, I know better than to ask a gentleman his age, but you look pretty young. So yeah,
I may look young. That's only because I have a nice, clean-shaven face. I'm in my 30s. Let's put it that way. I don't look it.
That's still young. So, but that's really great, because I think that is a really big part of why a lot of people get involved with open source, is to kind of build those skills that obviously are incredibly useful when it comes to applying for those jobs. And just having that, and also I think it's having that breadth of experience, because, not saying that the classes aren't good, but real life experience is just, you're seeing this, in production and in use. And that's kind of different than just doing this lab exercise where...
Absolutely. And you see mostly in the labs for network technicians and network security, you see a lot of the networking side of things, the network equipment, how stuff interlinks, how computers talk to each other, how applications talk to the internet, all that stuff. But what you don't get is, how does the system actually run to do that? And that's really where my, I will call it self-learning, came in. I got interested in Ubuntu and Linux because initially I was at Carnegie Mellon University for a year before it didn't work out. And their entire backbone of storage and everything was Unix driven. So they had a lot of Red Hat machines there. So I got really interested in Linux then, and started using that as my daily driver in 2010.
2010, interesting. But I really like that it's a crossover when we spoke to Xana from Ask Ubuntu, that you started in the forums and answering questions and learning the things that way. Do you think that contributed to your now Linux core dev knowledge base?
Absolutely, because everybody has to start somewhere. I know it's an overstated statement, but it's true. So everyone has to start somewhere. I was interested in saying, hey, you know what? This is a free operating system. It's customizable. I think I'll start digging. And I started digging, got really quickly very interesting, making it work the way I wanted it to. So I quickly became a power user by necessity. I had an ancient Dell Vostro laptop that I got from Carnegie Mellon, and that thing, it did not, this was XP era, and it did not like XP, even though it was overpowered for what Windows was. I finally said, screw it, jumped XP, went straight to Linux. Everything worked a lot better, and now to this day I still use Linux. Daily driver, except a full-time job. But
yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, getting into it there, I started learning more of the back-end side, because Unix as a system is annoying. So I started learning a lot more of the command line, and I switched to forums, helping out people, because I ran into a lot of problems with Dell equipment, different software pieces. And ever since that really started happening, I kept doing the support side. I also kept reading a lot of interesting threads, like, here's how we run web servers, here's how you run this, how do you do that. Hey, I'm having issues with display drivers. I started really learning a lot quickly, by paying attention to threads maybe I wasn't directly vested in, but threads that I got interested in. And that really helped me to say, you know what, I want to dig more into that. So I kept digging and I kept digging and I kept digging. And then when it got time to, that's just a while ago, when it got time to start doing internships and work, a lot of things we saw were like, well, people are using Windows servers and in the corporate environment. Linux still hadn't really gotten as much attention as it has now comparatively in the server market. So I said, you know what? These sites run cool. I want to learn how to do that. So then I started reading up everything I could, DigitalOcean, forum posts, etc., to really dig into the technical side of Ubuntu and the command line side of things. And that really, I said, you know what? Apache is okay, but it's memory painful. Some people in the technical community call it a memory whore because it eats all the memory of a system.
Right.
No, don't demonetize us, YouTube.
We aren't monetized anyway. It's fine.
Yeah, YouTube don't care.
YouTube doesn't care. Twitch does. But in any case, that's really what got me interested in the actual development side of things. Because I saw, you know what? I don't like Apache. Nginx is really cool. It's really lightweight. It works for everything I need. And I started really learning, how does that function? How does that work from their upstream team? And then I realized, oh, this is an Ubuntu, but it's out of date. There's a lot of bugs. So then I said, well, maybe I can fix some of them. A lot of those bugs had patches and fixes already available. So I really dug into the SRU processes, got all that handled. Server team knew my name early because in 2014, we accepted Nginx into the main repositories. It was accepted, passed, and then it got official support. Security team supports the core version of it. Server team supports it. I support it. So I really got into that in 2014 and beyond.
2014.
Yeah, and I think that
2015, 2016, I branched down to other packages and other work, PHP, some other stuff.
Oh, but I think that
yes, Nginx is the web server. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna open that can of worms.
Yeah, we'll keep that one shut. Sorry, Monica, go ahead.
No, but I just wanted to say, as someone who felt very vindicated when I set up my own web server for the first time, and I did it, especially when I did the Nginx set up. And I think that there are probably a lot of people either in the live chat now or watching this afterwards who benefit directly from the work that you've done. And sometimes I think that it's good to know that, you know, that your work as a package maintainer is absolutely vital. I mean, just think of how many millions of people, if not, you know, hundreds of millions, maybe more, that's helped.
Absolutely. And just to put this up here, I did a quick lookup on the internet for the usage statistics. As of 2019, it was almost 33% of known web servers by a lot of these companies. Now it's 34 as of last year. So it's one of those big ones that is very commonly used in the open source world because it's available. Another big one is Apache. They both have their benefits and their detriments, obviously. But Nginx was like, people are using it. It doesn't have as much support. There's just a laundry list of bugs. I said, I'm going to triage those. Got rid of most of them because they're old and obsolete. Fixed the ones I could. Put a couple up to Nginx themselves because there are issues that need to be fixed upstream. And I started also saying, hey, you should probably focus on the Debian side of it as well. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that as well. Still do to this day. Server team helped me a little bit.
Do you have any interaction with the upstream? Is that
occasionally?
Occasionally.
Back in, actually, let me pull up my Launchpad profile because I made a note of it. Back in, open this up, please. Slow system is slow. Back in, I think it was 2018, 2017, somewhere around there. Nginx had stated a list of open source community experts, and they actually put me on that list.
Yeah.
I was invited to go out to one of the last in-person, in-person conferences they had, but alas, at the time I was still in school, so I couldn't get out of there. And even if I could, it was finals week that week, so I couldn't do that. Even that they had offered to pay for everything, help me with the travel cost, all that stuff. I just couldn't do it. Finals were more important.
Yeah, grades, graduating, all that stuff. Well, that's fantastic.
You mentioned that you were almost ecstatic when you finally set up a web server for yourself. Shortly after I set up a web server for myself is what got me real interested in security, because I was running a little WordPress site as a lab environment, and lo and behold, it got popped.
Oh, wow. What happened?
I started digging hard into the security side of things too.
Crazy.
Sorry, you were about to ask me a question.
I was just going to ask what happened. What happened, and how did you solve it, if you solved it?
Well, at the time, it was just a stupid little site. Someone had hijacked it and it started redirecting to malware, porn, bestiality, other crap. So all I did is I said, you know what? I'm not even going to deal with this anymore. I just destroyed it. And then I just took off that server. It's like, goodbye. And then started focusing, how can I rebuild this in a secure way? And then that's really when I started digging into the security technical side of things. And the server team knew a lot about that too. So
yeah,
that's also why I do network security now, because it's so important in this day and era. And yet I still am a developer here for Ubuntu, trying to keep things working as well as I can.
Now, for when it came to going from, you started with Nginx and then you branched out to other packages. Now, what was it that sparked you to apply to become a core dev?
Well, a lot of the reasons that people apply for, and this is my developer membership board member hat on, apply for rights, is so that they don't have to bother other developers who are either paid or otherwise to sponsor their packages. And I really started going for that when there was this major bug a couple years ago where LVM changed one of the outputs and it broke some of the underlying systems in the main desktop environment, the GUI for partition editing. So when I started seeing that and other bugs similar to that, I said, you know what? I am bothering sponsors a lot. And sometimes it takes 2 weeks to, and in worst case, even longer, to get a sponsor to actually say, okay, I'll sponsor this for you. Most of the stuff I had gotten sponsored was Robbie on the security team was kind enough to sponsor that up for things. So my primary drive was to say, hey, I do a lot of drive-by updates. I do updates here. I do updates there. I do package uploads for people. And I want to stop bothering all the sponsors because it's a long list of things that need sponsored. So that's really when I said, you know, maybe I should start the process. I should apply for Motu first, because most of the stuff I was touching was in the universe. Robbie said, well, why don't you go core dev? Because you're touching stuff in main as well. I said, good idea. And that's when I applied straight for core dev. Initially, there were a couple of people saying, oh, you've only got one real supporter on this. You got other people giving testimonials, but they're not as much there. And, you know, from that perspective, they said, you know what, I'd love to see you do more outside of Motu, but we'll go through this because you have such a glowing recommendation from Robbie, who at the time was one of the DMB members. So it was definitely that which helped me get my upload rights. Sorry.
Go ahead. Keep going.
The primary drive was I'm doing a lot of package uploads. I'm trying to get all these things updated for people, low-hanging fruit, updates in original releases. Let's make it easier for people and just give me the rights I need to upload. Still follow the SRU policies, still follow the security policies and all that stuff, but it really has made it a lot easier for me to support things. And what was not stated is I'm also a member of the Ubuntu Studio team. So until recently, when Eric on that team got his upload privileges, I was helping out uploading a lot of new packages that were brand new, not in Debian, weren't slated for Debian. for the studio team to use. So that's really where it's like 20 packages, 20 brand new packages. Oh, well, sponsors aren't going to give me 27 hours of their time for each. So by that point, I have my core dev, but it really is an example of, hey, I got all this stuff that I want to get uploaded. I don't need to worry about sponsors doing this if I have the rights. That's what a lot of people have been using for the goals.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I've read that a little bit. I've heard that from the same people as well. And how long ago was it that you said this was?
For the studio team, within the past 2 years. Core dev I've had since, where is it? I've been a core developer since, well, February of June of 2019 So
2019.
2 years.
Yep, 2020 is the chaos year. That's when I really started helping out the studio team.
That's great.
Okay.
And because what else are we going to do? Stuck at home.
yeah, exactly.
And then from there, it just escalated more. Developer membership board early 2020, and then community council after that.
Nice. And what for people? Go ahead, Monica. Go ahead.
I was just saying that it's really great that, especially as someone who started out as a contributor for the flavors and who's seen that that collaborative spirit. And so it's great that you were like, well, I've got, I have these core dev rights. How can I use these to best help the community? It's like, oh, there's these flavors who really need people to help them get their packages where they need to go. And so that is just things like that. Just, I know it makes me all warm and fuzzy to see how we help each other out and how we're all stronger together than we are as a bunch of separate little flavors.
Well, it also helps if you have the core dev rights to help prospective developers. A lot of them will say, hey, I want to get help and contribute to Ubuntu, Ubuntu, take your pick. And people who have upload rights are like, well, let's take a look at what you can do. And we review their stuff and we say, this needs improvement, or, I can't accept this because here's why. Sure, I'll help you out with that. And it really helps to get people who are interested in getting involved in development get started, because even though I may be a little more on the firmer side for how I analyze packages and patches, and more easy to say no than okay, I tend to try and help people as much as I can first and give them guidance. If I reject a patch, I say, here's why I'm rejecting it. Because it's a patch that's not in upstream yet. It's not guaranteed to work. It doesn't fix this, doesn't fix that. You've added extra changes, other things there. The typical patch review policy being you want to fix that bug. Okay, your fix has to fix just that bug. Maybe a couple of these other bugs with it, but you can't have new features or everything else that easily at the time. So it helps to guide the new developers who are unsure of the process. Here's what the process is. Here's how we can help you get better. And, here's how you can start on your way to contributing more, whether it's community or technical.
Totally. Helping people along. And for people who might be listening now who are interested in getting involved and doing these things, I wonder if you could speak a little bit about what the process was like for you doing the core dev thing, even though you skipped the Motu, which isn't necessarily typical. What's that like?
Well, to start with, let's go back to what I first had upload rights to. That would be Nginx. I put a ton of effort into Nginx. So the first thing I did was when we started getting to the point of, hey, let's get this ready to go for main inclusion, so it's considered a supported package. Security team has support, etc. Is really when I started saying, I'm going to apply for upload rights just for that package. And you tend to see this with people. They're interested in specific pieces of software, and they get involved in development on that. So we'll focus on that. And that's where the developer membership board and permissions have a per package upload right. One package or a small set of packages, you can get rights for that and then be allowed to upload for that package, which is what I did. And I used all my Nginx uploads and work on that, stable release updates and such, to help sort of guide myself with the proper packaging rules and restrictions. So starting small, Nginx, getting larger and larger in scale. and reaching to the point where I have core developer, I see some questions I'm ignoring. My apologies to everybody.
Don't. Well, so keep going with
Yep.
the story, and I'll ask you the questions in a bit.
So it actually took a lot of effort and a lot of work for me to get to the point where I could get my own upload rights with trusted to make uploads and not break anything. One of the things I did was, again, Rob, I'm going to be dropping his name a lot. Robbie on the server team was more than willing to answer questions that I had. So if I wasn't sure if a patch was workable, if the package change was worth it, I would always ask questions. I still do, even to this day. And make sure that if I'm not sure about something, I check with someone who is or would be able to point me in that direction. And I had a lot of support from that perspective. But I also approach it in a we'll call it friendly and professional manner. So just like a job, you want to approach things in a civil manner. You don't just say, hey, I found this, I won't get it in there. I'm like, no. Hey, I found this, I'm not sure about this. Can you take a look? Maybe help me out a little bit. Ask a lot of questions about the policies until I knew them like the back of my hand. There's still a couple of policies I ignore, like I don't touch kernel packages for that reason, if I can avoid it. But in that kind of perspective, helps saying, hey, I know how to do this, but I could still learn more. And asking questions is really big to helping you on that journey.
How did you ask Robbie and the other developers that you were asking? How did you ask those questions? Was it in IRC or was it in somewhere else?
Usually by IRC. There were a couple questions where something had to be sent through email, and then there were a couple cases where I don't even remember how everything was. It's how much stuff I've done. Most of it was in IRC, if not with Robbie directly in Ubuntu Devel on IRC, because if you ask a good question, they get good answers. And every so often I forget what the specific policy is, so because there's so much stuff rattling around in this head of mine that sometimes I forget some things, so I have to refresh myself on the policy. Say, hey, I think this is policy. Can you confirm? And everybody says, yeah, that's what it is. It's where it really helps with other people being willing to go in and say, hey, I see you're working on this, and I see you have questions. Here, I'll be happy to answer your questions. That still happens from time to time with the Ubuntu project.
Oh, cool.
That's really how I grew. I asked questions. I learned more about processes, and eventually I asked for core dev because I started working a lot more beyond just one or two packages or just beyond community packages. Started touching stuff that people canonical touch.
Right, and then what does life look like when you have all of the different packages to look after? Are you actively looking for things in the different packages, or is it all sort of
it's
masters
mostly
of the universe before
at this point? At this point, it's mostly drive-bys and through the sponsors list. So one of the things people email and say, "Hey, I have a patch. I'd like to get it sponsored in," and well, it's never. You're right. It's never wrong to ask questions, but. In the sponsors list, people are like, I'd like to get this patch supported, like to get this supported, like to get that supported. And that's really how I started broadening my scope even more. And now I happily help sponsors if there's nobody else working on it. A lot of stuff that hits sponsors is right now, that's a lot. The OEM team. So they have their own set of people for that. But for the rest of the low-hanging fruit in the community world and a couple of things in Maine, I try and help where I can.
Cool.
The big problem I see is that not a lot of sponsors step up in very obvious ways, especially on the community side.
What do you mean by that?
Well, let's say something gets uploaded to sponsors, right? It could be a patch that is critical to fix for someone's application, but otherwise has limited to no impact on the rest of Ubuntu. So you're going to end up with what, in the triage side of it, a low priority or a wish list priority, saying we'd like to have this in here, but we're not going to because we just don't have time to support it. It's a community supported package, et cetera, et cetera. And some people only do half the work. They only say, here's the patch from upstream. They don't actually prep it for Ubuntu and test it.
Okay. And what's involved in that prep process?
That's a long process, and it requires a little bit more knowledge than just basic developer knowledge. You need to know how packages
Sure.
are built. Uh, Ubuntu is based off of Debian, so we use the Debian packaging format. Uh, if you're making a patch to a package, you have to make sure you know, how do I make that patch? How do I import a patch from upstream, make sure it's there? How do I build test that package? How do I make sure it installs and runs? I mean, case in point, this laptop that I'm on right now has 32 gigs of RAM. On any given day, 18 gigs of RAM are taken up for development VMs. And running VMs or containers of specific systems and versions of Ubuntu that I'm testing or building packages on.
Mm.
Maybe I'm not working on it that day, but it auto runs in the background. So there's still 17 gigs of 32 in use on any given day.
Wow.
Yeah,
Half
still
of it runs
stick around.
automatically, and the other half is when I work on it. But it took a lot of time to get all that set up. And again, a lot of guidance from developers saying you may want to take a look at this, you may want to take a look at that. Different resources. I'd post all the resources here, but it's a long list. So
That sounds like that might be a great, I don't know, a discourse post possibly?
mhm.
Like resources for getting started in community development and patch prep?
Yep. Though there are a lot of patch prep documents out there from the
Mhm.
security team still on the wiki, but there's a lot of technical knowledge in them that is geared to someone who knows development. So
Mhm.
so rewriting some of that and putting it on Discourse might be a good thing. We do have a tutorial. Ow. Sorry guys, my shoulder still hurts every so often. We did have
No
a I don't know if the site is still up. There was a sort of a tutorial on getting started with packaging and developing, but for the most part nowadays we see people building snaps instead of directing to the repository.
Mhm.
Maybe it's packaging.ubuntu.com. So one of the things I would share my screen, but apparently it won't let me.
Oh no.
Is it packages.ubuntu.com? You should be able to share your screen in the bottom there. We can get it going. Oh, you just sent the.
Yeah, it was being a little bit weird on my side. So
Here you go. Here you go.
I have to
There we go.
find it. I have too many pages open. So one of the things that everybody who wants to support Ubuntu stuff, PPAs, packaging, patching a package, this is really a good starting point. Going to the packaging guide, starting to understand the basics of how it is. This is also designed to target people who want to develop straight for Ubuntu. I see questions regularly on Ask Ubuntu about it. It usually gets me involved on it. But what this also does, the packaging guide is designed to give you pretty much everything you need to getting set up and fixing a bug in Ubuntu, not pure packaging from scratch. Especially this one here, which is fixing a bug. Let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger.
Here we go.
There we go. So it shows you what you need to do. Find a problem. Okay. Get code. Fix problem. Test the fix. Make the changes. Make sure the package builds. Request a merge. This one is built off of using Git Ubuntu and the Git backends for repository storage. I learned the old way. Upload directly to the repository. The Debian way.
The Debian way.
Well, this packaging guide didn't exist in its entirety when I started. The Debian one did.
Sure.
But
I really. Go ahead.
You first.
I was just going to say I really thought I'd found all of the .ubuntu.com websites, but I missed this one. Apparently, this is cool.
It's a little known one. It's linked to for the PPA side of things on Launchpad. But it's just one of those ones where this is the guide for packages.
Right.
Either fixing a bug like this one, which says, here's all your options, here's the basic workflow. Gotta find a problem. And I will also open this one. I don't know if it's going to share it. This is a list of all the quote bite-size close quote bugs. And yep, there it is in Ubuntu. It's a special tag. It's designed for bugs which are relatively easy fixes, low hanging fruit, that kind of stuff, where you can go in, take a look at them and say, we got some issues here, or a patch is already available, someone just has to sponsor it, test it, that kind of stuff. And it makes a lot of sense that we have these bite-sized bugs. Most of these probably shouldn't be bite-sized, but it's considered bite-sized in the sense that, oh yeah, this is a good way for you to get started. It's a small patch. You got patches available if you want to get started. Something that needs testing if you want to take that route and see if you can solve a problem.
Neat.
And like some of these are really small, like this is a man page, and this is a really, really, really old bug. When you get under the 500,000 mark, this is really old.
Oh yeah.
Because there's there's over 1 million some bugs now on Launchpad.
Ooh.
Nice.
But I also started looking at some of these and saying, yeah, this one was easy to work with. Oh, that one's easy to work with. And then there were a couple others, PHP specific ones that I kind of filed, got submitted and accepted upstream, and then said, hey, guess what? They did this upstream. Let's apply it here. So
nice.
You got that.
Okay, let me take this. I'll take this off screen for a second. I put the link to packaging.ubuntu.com in the chat, and I think let's look at some of those questions now. So the first one that came in a little while ago was someone wanted to know that if, in your view, Ubuntu is being used as the most popular for use as a server, or is there other distros that do that? If so, why? Yeah. Okay, you can read it. Yeah.
That's a very broad question. The question that I may not actually be able to answer. In my opinion, I think Ubuntu is one of the more common and user-friendly desktop distributions, a way to get into the Linux world, learn and work with it. It's very simple to set up. It's very easy to get working for most things. There's a broad community support on that. When you talk servers, it gets a little trickier. A lot of people, the argument is, oh, well, Ubuntu is designed for desktop. It's not really designed for server. It's not secure as well. In some cases, the answer to that is yes, that's true. But in other cases, I say it's more extensible and it's more regularly updated. I can't say if it's I need to go back to here so I can read it. I don't know if it's being used more or less in other distributions. I know a lot of people use CentOS and Red Hat based distributions. I know a lot of people use Debian directly. I know one guy who insists on using Arch as a server. I don't know why.
Wow.
He does. I question his judgment every day because that's not built as a server distribution. The primary ones I see mostly though are Debian and Ubuntu right now, from what I'm exposed to, because they're easy to use, they're free, they're regularly updated, and there's a lot of enterprise level solution backing from Canonical on it.
Yeah, interesting. Have you got maybe I can't. I've tried to go and find it quickly, but maybe you can throw up the bite-sized Launchpad link again for someone in the chat that is looking for it.
If you actually go to page 3 of the packaging URL there, it'll actually say on there, bite-sized bugs. There's a link in there. Page 3.
Cool.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Easier than having to give you a long Launchpad link.
Nice. The next question was, Thomas, where is there a noticeable shortage in the community packaging efforts? How can members of the community find such opportunities to chip in?
Start with bite-sized bugs. That's the big one. The other way to do it is say, hey, I use X software. I'm interested in fixing it. I know it has this bug, that bug, that bug. Find the fixes upstream. Say, hey, we need to get this in here so it can work again. Start just by focusing on specific packages you want. Community packaging as a whole, traditionally, people are also like, well, I want to get my new software into the repositories. Traditionally, you would go through Debian to do that, and it would just auto-sync down during the next development cycle. Snaps kind of bypass that, and it goes straight into the Snapcraft store, and it's available in anywhere that has snaps.
Which sort of leads on to a question that came after that, which with snaps getting more and popular, is it still necessary to learn?
Before we jump to snaps, though, to answer Daniel's question, yes, that's their name. I work with DWD from the YouTube side on a regular basis.
Awesome.
If community members sorry about that. If community members want to contribute in the packaging efforts, start by fixing bugs. Start by finding a package you're interested in and fixing issues in it. Start tracking the bugs as they come in. Start helping people triage those bugs, and start working on getting patches for those bugs available into the Ubuntu repositories. And then find a sponsor, and ask us to maybe help you get it in.
So what you're saying is find a bug that you're interested in, monitor all of those bugs, and then bother the hell out of you. Keep poking you until you help sponsor those packages. Is that what it is?
Well, myself and other sponsors. Don't keep poking me. I sit on the community council. I have enough stuff to deal with.
We know that.
But no. Find a program you're interested in that you use a lot. Maybe if there's a bug you notice, file a bug. Even if it's just simple, start filing bugs. Say, hey, I found this issue. Maybe it's an issue here. Maybe it's just something I'm doing. Start learning the program, and then when you actually start seeing bugs and things that are bugs, start finding the fixes for them in the upstream. So like in Firefox, you go up to Mozilla's repositories and say, hey, this bug, was this ever filed? Was this ever seen? Is there a fix for it? And start taking those patches from upstream and preparing them for Ubuntu. Everything's in the packaging guide for that.
Nice. Awesome. Well, so now we can... Go ahead, Monica.
This sounds like it would make a great community content stream. Like, here's how to work through one of those bugs.
Yeah.
Yep.
With those bug days that used to happen, right? We could do maybe another bug day or a bug thing.
Make sure you just get people who have core dev available, depending on what you're focusing on. So some of those bug drives were, hey, we have this set of packages or this package suite that we want to work on. Or we want to work on just this set of bugs or that set of bugs. So that's really where bug days start working. Hey, we're going to drive and we're going to get this done.
Yeah.
But you need to have that focus to do it. You can't just say, okay, bug day for random bugs.
Sure. Interesting. Well, good to know. Onto the thing that we were talking about before. So with snaps getting more popular, is it still necessary to learn how to produce and upload debs? What do you think about that?
This is where it gets into the gray area. Right now, I didn't see it the question get shared here since it's only posted on Twitch. There we go. I think the answer to that question is yes, if you intend to actually do anything in the Ubuntu development side of things. Snaps are designed to work sort of cross-platform more than anything. You can get the snap, you can install it on any distribution that has snapd on it. So Debian, Ubuntu, CentOS, if you really know what you're doing. You can do it on Arch if you really know what you're doing. Fedora, all those have snaps on there. And snaps are designed to be, you have what you need, you have the software you need, it's able to be replicated, sandboxed where it needs to be, and is available for everyone on there. What it doesn't necessarily provide is the same insight that the Ubuntu world has. Like, there are still a lot of packages in Ubuntu that are not snapped for various reasons, because of dependencies or time or whatever you want there. And there's other policies about certain things that are snapped that can still be installed as snaps and have leftover Debian files still there. Chromium, for instance, the Chromium browser is an example of that. But you probably should still learn at least the basics for producing, not necessarily producing from scratch, but for uploading and knowing how to modify an existing package for bug fixes if you want to get started, because that's really still critical in Debian and Ubuntu, where most of those packages are actually Debian packages, they're not snaps.
Totally. And Laney's making a similar point, right? That most snaps anyway contain debs or files which originated from debs, right?
Correct. Sorry, guys. These earphones are a little annoying.
So that's the questions in the chat. If anyone has any more questions about all of that stuff, keep going. But I wanted to ask you next move slightly away from the core dev stuff and ask you about your sort of journey into community COC, community council stuff.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, let's start with how I kind of got into leadership roles first.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I got core dev, and then a couple years later, I think it's a year later, the developer membership board came up, and it's like I was just talking back and forth with Robbie. He's just, spitballing and shooting the breeze. Said, you know what? I noticed DMB's here. Maybe I should apply. Maybe I could do something there. He said, I think you'd be a great candidate for it. So I applied for that, and that was my foray into the leadership side of things, the community involvement side of things, because DMB is the gateway for developer upload privileges. You have to apply through us with some exceptions. Ubuntu has their own rule set, and etc. But you have to go through us to get upload rights, and we are kind of the gateway to make sure that you know what you're doing. And that's really a major technical leadership side of things. Technical board above that, community council above that. And when it came time to restaff the community council after it had been unstaffed for a couple of years, I said, you know what? I would probably be a very good candidate because I'm well connected in the community on the Ask Ubuntu side. I'm connected on the technical side, a couple of the flavors. I'll put my name in for consideration. And thank you, Mark. My name got selected, and I was put into the list of people for the community council. And from there, it's more community leadership, driving everything, making sure stuff's handled as it needs to be when issues arise, usually with people misbehaving on the code of conduct more than anything. But the community council also helps to guide, you, Rhys, with when we get the developer issue and we need it to be triaged up to canonical, like the whole discussion of, what does end of standard support mean? What does long-term support mean? What does ESM mean? Or to the pure community side of things, when we bother Monica and say, hey, this is some suggestions that have come up or some issues that have come up, either with Ubuntu and canonical seeming like disjointed, discordant, not connected to each other as much. Maybe we can work to improve that. Maybe it's town hall sessions where you can discuss with both canonical and community sides of things as representatives. Maybe it's the Indaba stuff where the desktop teams and such come in, and all those different things where we've kind of sort of the coordinator of information between canonical and the community side of things. And we get people making complaints and notes all the time, suggesting things. We decide internally as a team, hey, here's something that we need to let you guys know about.
And we really appreciate that. I think it was last week or the week before I was talking about how when the whole IRC debacle, that if we wouldn't have had the IRC council and the community council functioning and working well, then that would have been it was already hard, but it would have been a nightmare without that. So we're extremely grateful for the work that you do there. So mine's
only a small portion.
Yes, but the work that the community council does as a whole, and I think that's why it's so important to have that back. And we're also very grateful to everyone who started that discussion and took place, and that led to kind of this re-emphasis on the community that we have now on both sides.
Because we're now beyond
indeed the man of many hats. Yeah, we're talking about many hats now. Exactly.
Yeah,
bound to happen.
Yeah. So the community teams also I've said this before. The community council wants to thank both of you as well, saying that you guys have been very helpful in getting us contact to canonical for different things that need to be done, for triaging issues to where they need to go. And it really helps to have that dedicated contact, either for the developer side of things or for the community side of things, or worst case, the legal side of things. That's where we bug Monica and then bugs canonical legal and Catherine. But without you guys on the community team at canonical, we wouldn't be able to actually get a lot of stuff done. And the community and myself and the community council and everybody have you guys a lot to thank for that. Because without you guys, it would be hard to get all of our stuff done because some stuff needs Canonical to do it.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're just here to help you guys get stuff done. That's the main thing.
Among other things, because you all have your own work too.
Among other things, but the main thing, the most important thing is that the community get things done, the community stays, we help the community stay active.
Yep.
Right? And Lainey there, Ian there preempted my next sort of question, which is looking into the future. What's the focus of the community council over the next year? Where do you see things going?
Well, I can't give an attestament to that right now. I want to say that we're still functioning. We are functional. We are working where we need to be, but we all are currently being impacted by the rising spread of COVID. I won't go much into detail of that because I know that's its own can of worms politically and personally speaking. But some of us on the CC are currently inundated with main jobs. They're in healthcare or things more personal, close to home because COVID's impacting things. Right now, my full-time job, we were about to implement, 3 days a week back in the office, 2 remote from home. And then Delta got even worse. So lockdowns are starting to happen again at the public sector. So I'm now having to get used to I was hoping to go into the office a little bit. Now I have to stay at home because of that. So while I would love to say the CC has a focus over the next year, that would be something I suggest if you would email the community council about and let us discuss, put together an actual response. Because while I can speak to what my focus and bits and what the community council will be, a lot of it's technical, a lot of it's revamping policies and everything, because we've had a lot of problems with that recently. Monica, I've kept you in the loop on that because of how major some decisions are. But if you ask the community council as a whole, we'll be able to come up with a list for you. And I would like you to ask if Rhys or Monica, one of you could share the I'm sorry, I just got a notice from my workplace about something being broken.
No.
I'll fix that in 20 minutes because it's a simple reboot. But I would suggest that for the community council, Rhys or Monica, if one of you could put the community council's list address up here, that would be great. So if you have questions for the community council that are community related within the purview of the council, please feel free to email the community council, thoughts, concerns, recommendations, feedback, whatever. We'll take it, and if it's not for us, we'll make sure it gets to where it needs to. And in case you just want the email address, it's community-council@lists.ubuntu.com. It's on that link as well.
Yeah.
And then I've got the email there.
Yep.
Cool.
Monica gets a ton of emails from us because she's CC'd on a lot of them.
But I really love the idea of putting your priorities together, and it helps Rhys and I know it's okay, where, because I think, Rhys explained it so well that we are here to support the community and help you all accomplish what you want to. That's our primary responsibility. So,
and I'm very glad that role is now filled and available to them. Not only because the community council has, is triaging messages as they come to us, but also because it gives people in the community at large the contact points to say, hey, maybe this isn't something that needs the whole Ubuntu community side of things, but Canonical might want to think about, interacting with the community on this too. That gives an extra way to convey, community interest, recommendations, feedback, etc., to Canonical specifically, rather than just going through standard forums and everything.
Yeah, and I mean, as you'll know, there's lots of people in the community already, and there are prospective developers, or people who might not be part of the community yet, who really all they need is that little sort of nudge, right? They need that little touch point, and it's just beneficial to see that things are happening, things are going on, the lights are on, if you will, so that they can knock on the door. And likewise, it's as part of what the community council does. If people get wind of that, there's this kind of governance body, there's this kind of council going on, then it feels like a safer and more more lights on kind of place.
No offense to anywhere, but at some point there was some oversight on that, whatever that the cause was. Too busy, this didn't need it, whatever. It started getting to the point where it was finally determined it's needed. I remember specifically myself and others appealing, saying, hey, we need a community council. It's been unstaffed. It's causing problems with the other boards, the technical board, the ones that oversee major technical decisions that affect everything. The membership boards, because some of them are staffed directly by the community council, and other things. So it's really good to see that Canonical and Mark put that interest back in and said, yeah, we'll get this community back together where it needs to be. And now actually focusing on, let's get the community back together and working together.
Totally. All right. Well, we're over the hour, out of time. So I'll start
a little bit.
Just a
little bit. Yes, we've got time to wrap things up. So I'll just wrap things up a little bit. I'll say thank you for coming on. Thank you for speaking to us. It was very interesting for me. I didn't know an awful lot of what you said, so that was awesome.
My apologies if I went over and above.
No, cool. That's what we were hoping for.
And I think that you that some of the resources you pointed out and the advice, it was extremely helpful. And I know for me exactly what I was hoping for, to have you talk about your experience, and I mean your extensive experience with this. And hopefully this will inspire some people, Yannick and Big Pod and others, to start going down this process, especially if you have an interest in the packaging. And for some of you who have been thinking about it, and you've got all these places to start now.
And there's also one thing I didn't mention, because I don't do much of it. There is a testers team, an official Ubuntu Testers team that tests
along soon.
That do during the development cycle. They test the hell out of the ISOs as they're built, and those people are very good at helping you, test things, maybe not fix the bugs, but say, hey, this is a bug. Is anyone able to reproduce this? And then that gets stuff done critical to the different repositories or the different packages necessary for an Ubuntu release. There's the official side for Ubuntu, and then the Ubuntu, Xubuntu, Kubuntu. They all have their own teams working with that as well. So even if you're not interested in the packaging programming side, maybe just start doing some QA testing. And there's resources for that as well. I just don't have them on my screen right now.
We'll get them. We'll put them for people who aren't watching this live. They'll be able to see those in the description if they're watching it.
And also definitely in the
Ubuntu
coming months.
That's the one I was forgetting about.
Okay.
Oh, and especially in the coming month, we will be having some of those testers come on, because we have the testing week that usually kicks off around the time that the Impish Indri beta will be ready. And if you look if you look for the Hirsute Hippo testing week, then you'll see all of those resources for testing up.
And especially for Hirsute and the LTS releases, whenever there's a point release coming up, there's always a testing week for that, because that's a major milestone. Major.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So, and Thomas, I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point. So,
man in many hats. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Well, we will see you all next week. And I think that we are going to be maybe rethinking kind of the scheduling, maybe having more of the EMEA Americas friendly, still having those APAC hours. We know that they're really helpful, but sometimes they're a little bit early, especially last week. Good Lord. 5 in the morning.
They're a little bit early for Monica, which is difficult, but we could do them I could take care of it. We could have someone else do it, but we're also finding that we get a lot more interest, a lot more engagement with the later slots, and so we're going to prioritize those a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't need to talk about this now. Thank you everyone for coming along.
Yep.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you everyone for watching.
Yep.
And see you next time.